All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're kind of going on a treasure hunt. We're going to look past all the noise and the flashy headlines to find where the real tech breakthroughs are actually hiding. We're looking for the quiet innovators, the ones who are busy building our future. Let's get into it. You know, the tech world moves so ridiculously fast. A startup that nobody was talking about last year could easily become this year's breakout success story. It just goes to show you, the most important innovations, they don't always arrive with a big, loud announcement. A lot of the time, they're built in silence. So that's the big question for today, isn't it? If we want to find the future, we can't just follow the spotlight. We've actually got to look in the shadows, at those foundational layers of tech that are being built as we speak. To get to the bottom of that question, our first stop is to step beyond the headlines. This really means understanding the huge difference between the giants who just dominate the news cycle and the smaller, scrappier innovators who are doing the focused, essential work. I mean, it's really a tale of two different worlds. On one side, you've got the tech giants we all know, right? They're all over the headlines, creating these massive, broad platforms. But on the other side, you have these small-cap innovators. Their progress is quiet. They're not trying to do everything for everyone. They're trying to solve one specific, crucial problem, and they solve it really, really well. That focus, that's where the magic is happening. So, our first hidden horizon is artificial intelligence. And yeah, we're constantly hearing these huge, grand promises, but the progress that really matters, a lot of it is happening on a much smaller and, frankly, more practical scale. Seriously, forget about sci-fi robot overlords for a minute. The AI that's making a real difference today is the kind that tackles a very specific challenge. You know, like making a warehouse run a little bit smoother or spotting a tiny flaw on a factory production line. It's less about creating some kind of general all-knowing intelligence and way more about developing targeted, almost surgical expertise. And these applications are incredibly focused. We're seeing AI get built for these super specific, high-value tasks. Stuff like using visual recognition to monitor infrastructure in the real world, or an AI that just learns the normal behavior of a computer network so it can spot threats instantly. Or, and this is really cool, language models that master the super niche vocabulary of, say, law or medicine. These aren't broad platforms. They are sharp, effective tools for a specific job. Take this Canadian firm, for instance. It's not trying to build an AI that can predict the stock market or write a novel. Nope. It's using AI to watch inventory move through a single warehouse in real time. And by optimizing just that one process, it saves businesses real, tangible time and money. That right there is the essence of this kind of under-the-radar innovation. Okay, next up, green tech. And just like with AI, the real story here is often found not in the gigantic projects you see on the news, but in the small, essential components that make the whole thing work in the first place. It's so easy to think that green tech is just about massive solar farms or the slickest new electric car. And look, those things are absolutely important, but the ecosystem is so much bigger than that. The innovations driving the next wave of efficiency and progress, they often come from these smaller companies that you have probably never heard of. The real breakthroughs are often hiding in the components. So instead of building the whole wind farm, a small company might be developing a new material that makes the blades just 5% more efficient, or creating a smart system that cuts a data center's massive energy use. These focused, targeted solutions are the building blocks that together add up to massive change. A great way to think about this is in terms of upstream contributors. A tiny little sensor company might be the one providing the critical data that makes a huge, sprawling solar farm run more efficiently. Their specialized tech is what allows the big, visible projects to perform at their best. They're kind of like the hidden engine of the green revolution. Okay, let's pivot to a field that is always evolving, cybersecurity. As our world gets more and more digital, the threats just keep getting bigger and weirder. And it's often the smaller, more agile companies that are building the defenses for tomorrow's attacks, not just reacting to yesterday's. So how does this actually work? Well, picture this. An AI flags a really weird login at 3 in the morning. Instantly, before that account can do any damage, a specialized hardware chip verifies the whole system's integrity. If anything looks even a tiny bit off, the threat is shut down, neutralized, right on the spot. It's this proactive, layered defense that stops an attack before it even has a chance to spread. Now, this is where it gets really, really clever. Some of these firms are building security at the firmware level. We're talking deeper than your operating system. Think about that for a second. It's like having a security guard who checks for intruders before the lights in the building are even turned on. This is where the new front lines of cybersecurity are being drawn. All right, for our final hidden horizon, we're tackling the big one, quantum. Now, I know, this can feel incredibly complex, maybe a little far off. But don't worry, we are not going to get lost in the weeds of quantum theory. We're going to focus on the practical, tangible building blocks that small companies are creating right now. So for today's innovators, the real opportunity in quantum isn't about trying to build the entire massive computer from scratch. It's about perfecting one single essential piece of that puzzle. You know, the ultra-precise circuits, the specialized cooling systems, or the unique chips you need just to manage quantum states. These innovators are essentially supplying the picks and shovels for the quantum gold rush. They aren't digging for the gold themselves, but they're creating the essential tools that everyone else is going to need. Things like quantum-ready infrastructure and those crazy ultra-low temperature circuits. And a huge area right now is developing encryption that will actually be secure against tomorrow's quantum attacks. And here's a perfect example of a quantum tool in action. There's a Vancouver startup solving a very real problem. How do you send secure data over really long distances, especially where there's no fiber optic cable? Well, they're using quantum principles to do it. See, it's not abstract science. It's a targeted solution for a critical, real-world need. So after that journey through AI, green tech, cybersecurity, and even quantum, let's zoom back out. What's the main takeaway here? What's the big lesson? How do we find that signal in all the noise? At the end of the day, here's the signal we've been looking for. The most valuable, most important innovations, they aren't born from hype or from a clever marketing campaign. They come from a focused, determined, sometimes grueling effort to solve a real problem for real people. The breakthroughs that are going to define our next decade, they're being built right now. Not on some flashy stage with a huge audience, but in the quiet corners of the tech world. So the only real question left for us is, are we looking in the right places? Thanks for watching The Explainer.